All right. So, Jim, yesterday I ran into a former colleague of ours. I was at the grocery store. He's just moved into a district office role. Well, technically not until July 1st, but I mean, you know how that works, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But he's been a building administrator for 20 years, and we were just chit chatting back and forth. And I asked him how it was going. He said, "Well, it's kind of weird. I can actually do things on my calendar for once instead of just reacting to every single thing that's happening throughout the day." And I thought, that's kind of a perfect description of school leadership in itself. Most of the year, we are just actively running around the building, reacting to everything. And then all of a sudden, summer rolls around, and it's kind of that only time that leaders can actually step back and think about some of those bigger questions. And one of those is culture. And I know we're going to talk about that today.
Exactly. I think about the day that students leave, it's kind of really a neat day. And then
Hmm.
there's usually 1 or 2 days after their teachers are there kind of finishing up, and then they go on to classes or whatever that goes next. And I remember coming in on those days and just sitting in the chair and just listening to silence,
Hmm.
just complete and silence. It's a pause there as our guest is kind of nodding like she's just kind of barely had that before she had to take off. But just what is that like? And then some of those deeper questions kind of really get you that, so what's next? So
Yeah.
what was the question or thought process that came to your mind or came to his mind when you were conversing?
Well, I think his real question was back at me is like, okay, now that you've been in a district office role, how do you do this? Like, I don't know what to do with myself, and I actually think that I could maybe follow a calendar. And it's kind of funny. We were talking about that piece, and like, I think there's a question that's underneath all of it, and that's, when our adults get a chance to actually think about systems and make some plans and kick off ideas and all of that other stuff that we talk about in the summertime, do we honestly think about the little pieces underneath that go into how we really truly lead a building? How, what does that trust piece look like? What does the culture piece look like? And all of that stuff that I know we're going to get to today.
Well, the trust piece is just like anything with culture. If we're not intentional, it's not the culture we want. It's going to be a culture. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
Not going to be the culture we want. So when we think about, you mentioned trust, not only is that, we have to be super intentional with that. We have to look through different lenses and so forth. And what a great segue. You probably set this up with the guy in the grocery store. What a great, what a great segue to our guest today. Dr. Rachel really kind of leans into what that actually is like. In fact, for those who don't know Dr. Rachel, I'm going to say, I don't know how you don't know her.
Yeah.
I mean, this person, she's an elementary principal, which may or may or not know that out east. Um, President of association, the what I would call the NASSP version of that, or NAESP. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that, Rachel. Faculty member with ASCD, I believe, still. And what I really am envious of, or I think it's of all those things, is the TEDx speaker. That's
Hmm.
really clearly on my bucket list.
Thank you.
You wrote a couple books. Rachel, tell us a little bit, what I haven't mentioned already. Tell us a little bit about you and what's your story.
Yeah, first of all, I'm so excited to be here, Jim and Adam. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I started my career as a kindergarten teacher, and so I think my profile in terms of the school leadership is a little bit different. Most principals did not come out of a kindergarten classroom. I
Hmm.
made the jump from kindergarten to AP to principal, and so there's a lot that goes on in between there. But I'm just very fortunate to have had so many amazing experiences working with great teachers, great leaders, great principals, and continuing to learn from so many wonderful people like you two, and just continuing to expand the influence and thinking more about how we can continue to positively impact the field of education. That really is my goal.
Well, it's funny you're mentioning kindergarten, and my anxiety immediately starts to rise because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, boy, that is not my crew of kiddos. Love them to death, and
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for kindergarten teachers. I'll try to get them, to the very end of that finish line instead of the beginning. So
Yeah.
bless
It's a
you.
it's a
Thank you.
different world, but all necessary, right? Just kindergarten to high school, then beyond, all of that is a part of the process for kids. So we're happy to start that journey with students
Yeah,
and families.
that's awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to what we're going to talk about here today on Control Shift Lead. So let's go on ahead and do a little quick opener. And then we're going to get right back with our guest here today on CSL.
Welcome to Control, Shift, Lead, recorded in the Forward Ed Network studios, the Education Leadership Podcast for those ready to take action. Hosted by Jim Wichman of Inspired Edification and Adam Bush of AWB Education and Media. Leadership isn't a title, it's action. Discover how to take control, drive meaningful change, and lead with purpose right where you are. Take command, drive the shift, lead the way. This is Control Shift Lead.
All right. Well, like I said, welcome back to Control Shift Lead, everybody, our podcast for our school leaders who want to think a little bit more clearly or lead a little bit more intentionally and stop confusing that activity with progress. So welcome back. I'm your host, Adam Bush, and my co-host, Jim Wichman from Inspired Edification. And like we said, we have a wonderful guest today. And I really want to kind of just hop right into this because I know we've been chatting a little bit, but I think some of the work that you've got is, when I'm following you on social media, and as we were talking before, I saw you speak in person, well, roughly a year or so ago
Mhm.
now. Just your message is just so really clear. And I think it's one that our audience can really learn from here. So Rachel, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and get rolling. I do have a question to get us started here for our first segment today. Why do schools struggle to improve culture, and especially when trust just isn't there? Why does that happen?
I think this is a very complex question. I think there are so many factors that go into our school culture. And, what I've learned and continue to see over my career is that small changes in the culture can really tip it one way or another, right? So there are definitely some influences that happen that make it that much more challenging at times. But I agree with you, Adam. We have to focus our energy on the trust. There's a lot of distrust that's happening in education in the field in general. And that's not just from the general public, it's from all sides. And so, if we are going to lead our schools well, principals and assistant principals, administration, teams, educators, we have to get the trust right. And for me, trust is done in the small, consistent acts. And so, if I'm showing up one day one way, and tomorrow I'm showing up a different way, another way, it's going to be very hard for people to trust me. But if I come into the school, I speak to every person. I try to find out more about people personally. If I am consistent in the way that I show up every day in schools, then that goes a long way in helping people understand, okay, she is dependable. She is going to be a presence. She is here to support. They see it not only in what I'm saying, because I think that that's sometimes hard. Sometimes we say things, but
Sure.
people are not looking at what we're saying. They're actually watching what we're doing. So it is about consistent acts that builds that trust. So we have to start there.
I like how you talked about those little movements can tip a scale. You talk about the little movements that you do to tip it the way you want towards the culture you want. We also can do these little things to tip the scale the other way.
Hmm.
And what I think people sometimes forget is we already have culture. So it's as Adam described, we want the culture that we want, the desired culture.
Yeah.
And when I hear you speak about those little things, we got to be paying attention constantly to our actions and to our words. And you didn't use this word, but you kind of were talking a little bit about, like, if I'm right, being predictable to certain situations. Would that be accurate?
So, and when we face so many different challenges from so many different
Mhm.
sides,
Hmm.
Yes.
people are looking for leaders who can stay calm and focused. And that's not in every situation. But if I, as a leader, am freaking out and reacting to every little thing that's happening, that it creates a very unstable environment for people. And people want to look to leaders to have a steady hand. And so that's something that I've personally worked on over the years. Coming from, when I was new in the role as a kindergarten teacher going to AP, when someone had an emergency, I was like absorbing this emergency. It was like, if you
Yeah.
came to me with crazy energy, I was
Yep.
giving crazy energy. And I was like, but what I've learned to say is, okay, let me make sure I have all the information first. Let's sit down. Make sure, like, let me get my pen and paper, right? So I've had to personally slow down. And I think that that has helped over time, people understanding. Like, I remember my staff members saying to me, does anything rattle you? Yes, but there are so many different things that happen on a daily basis in the life of a school leader. It takes a lot
Yeah.
for me to get
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
a process, right? It's a process.
If
Well,
I
and it
wouldn't have
doesn't I
Go
was
ahead.
just gonna say, it doesn't do you any good in that moment to have all of that emotion go along with it either. I mean, at that moment in time, we've gotta work together as a team, and I think that's also part of it too, is a lot of times when staff members are coming to us, there might be some at some points in time, like, I don't know what to do. Can you just solve this for me? But more often than not, it's how can we solve this together? I'm struggling with that piece. I just need that extra support and that extra help. And the long term of that is going to be better if we do actually solve it together. Because likely something like this is probably going to happen again at some point.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I want to point out two things here. One is, if I could, like highlight or however you do that on a podcast, what Dr. Rachel just said is how she stops, takes a step back,
Mhm.
pauses, kinda gets all the information. That might be one of the biggest tips I would give ever in administrations, because when we react emotionally, we got more messes to clean up.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think it's great role modeling. The second part is, I mean, as far as administrator, that's one of those great strategies to kind of get the emotions out of it. Second part is, if I wouldn't known you were talking about administration, I would swear you were talking about being a kindergarten teacher on that one too. Thinking when all the
Yes.
kids are
Mhm.
coming in and you
Chaotic.
chaotic and
Mhm.
you like,
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's always a lot happening. This is why I tell kindergarten teachers, hey, if you're early childhood, you might have a knack for principalship. Okay.
yeah, especially after post
There's
Very
a lot
recess.
true.
happening.
Yeah, very true. But you also said something that also resonated with me. You're talking about the trust being earned, right? And we say that with students a lot. Like we want to just assume that trust is going to be there because I'm the adult in the room. And I think that we know that that's not the way it is. It's earned. Like we have to build that respect. We have to build that relationship between teacher and student or principal and student. I think we sometimes forget as administrators that also exists with adults. Like
Yes.
that relationship piece I build. I don't just get that because my title says principal or
Right.
because title is boss. It doesn't, there might be some compliance version of that, but not a true trusting relationship.
Agreed. And I know for me, I came from a school, I was there for 9 years. And so that trust built over time was evident. But when you step into a new building, you are new again. And there are no assumptions of trust in your space. You have to really show people who you are. You have to continue to communicate values and you have to live those values for people to begin to trust you. I think people will start off with like some degree of trust because I think as humans, that's how we are. We will definitely give a little bit, but if you're going to
Mhm.
build upon that, there's work to do. And if you make errors early on, it is hard to pull that trust back.
So
So it
true.
is a different level of
So
pressure
true.
when you are a new school leader in a new building, whether you're experienced or not. When you're in a new building, there is a lot of work to be done.
Well, I think that's a very important distinction. I mean, a school can look very functional on the surface
Hmm.
and then still have that trust problem underneath it. And especially like you're talking about, that those first impressions, they really matter. Holy cow, do they matter.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about what leaders themselves may need to rethink if they want that trust to become part of the culture and not just part of a mission statement. So hang on, everybody. I'll be right back after this commercial break.
This segment is sponsored by Grunmeyer Leader Services. Since 2013, GLS has been a trusted partner for school districts across the Midwest, specializing in executive recruitment and leadership support. They believe that great schools start with great leaders, and they are here to help you find the perfect fit for your district. Transform your school's future with the right leader. Visit GrunmeyerLeaderSearch.com to learn more. Grunmeyer Leader Services, transforming education one leader at a time.
There's a moment every educator knows when the to-do list gets longer than the school day. That's where ClassBridge AI comes in. Turn ideas into lesson materials, activities, and classroom resources in minutes, so you can spend less time building and more time teaching. ClassBridge AI. Work smarter in the classroom.
Well, welcome back to Control Shift Lead with our esteemed guest, Dr. Rachel. We're talking about trust and being intentional and how that impacts culture one way or the other. And as we start off, Rachel ended with on our last segment on we when we go to new positions, we have to start working on that trust again. So it kind of was a great segue into our next little focus here is so when we think about leaders and their what they get wrong with the trust building and what where it goes awry, and you talked about these small pieces on a scale balancing. So what do leaders misunderstand about trust and relationship with leadership?
I think it's a couple of things. First of all, I think we underestimate how much time it takes to
Mm,
build trust. There's a great book called The Speed of Trust. And so, like, I know it can be done in an effective way. But one of the things I always think about is what can we do as leaders when we break trust? And what does that process look like? And how long does it take to
mhm.
regain trust? We've all been in situations as leaders where we, with great intentions, do something to break someone's trust. And sometimes people can move pretty quickly with an apology, but other times it takes a long time for
True
some
statement.
people. And sometimes you don't ever get it back.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get like a version of trust, but it may not be full support. And so in those moments I like
I
to
think
like
of
tell leaders, continue to show yourself as consistent. As consistently as you can be, continue to show that because you have to work yourself back up to regain trust of people when we lose it.
Mhm.
Same with our parents. There have been situations with families where I'm working really hard on something, they disagree with it, and it takes years to get that back.
Yep.
It really
Yeah.
does. But the intentionality, the relationships with their children goes so much farther to rebuild that trust. So I always try to, if it's something with a family, I always start with their child first.
Mhm.
Rebuilding that relationship or maintaining the relationship with their child, that always gets me a little bit farther with the families.
so 2 thoughts there. First of all, it took me right back to a kindergarten observation I was doing, and it they she was talking about nice words or something to that effect, so I
Mhm.
apologize, with relationship, and she had the heart, the paper heart, and when you crinkle it up, you can never get it straight again, so flat again. So it's
Mm.
kind of similar to that, but sometimes you can get it flat over time. It just takes longer. And then the one thing I can just never figure out why principals don't really spend their energy on, and it's their biggest, advocate when it comes to building relationships at home is the students.
Mhm.
Yes,
And you're talking about that. That's how we build the trust. That's no, Mr. Whitman's not like that, or
that's right.
that's so important. And you just brought it up as like this is where you start. You start with building mending that relationship with students because they'll take care of a lot of it at home
They will.
with you at all levels, kindergarten all the way through. And that's one of those I just can't figure out to this day why we don't spend more time with that.
That feels so easy, Jim, but yet we don't do it. I
I
mean,
know.
it's just feels like common sense, but it just doesn't become common practice, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Have you had, when you're, like, talking about those moments or those situations where we've kinda stepped into where, we might have inadvertently broken the trust or cracked the trust, wall, strategies that work well to mend that? I mean, you talk about the
Yeah.
speed of trust, but go ahead and share some of those maybe
Yeah.
strategies that you've used.
I think it's a couple of things. Number one, it's dependent on the person, but I think first of all is acknowledging where we made an error. I think a lot of times we get in situations where we get defensive when we've made errors. And I think part of that is rooted a little bit in ego, but a little bit in perfectionism and wanting to continue to dig in. But I think the first thing is just coming humbly to someone and saying, I understand why you feel this way. I understand why it looks this way or why you interpreted it that way. And that's not not my intent and I'm sorry. Like that alone goes somewhere because I think sometimes people are not used to principals apologizing. But
Mhm.
I tell principals, if you are going to be effective in this role, you better learn how to apologize because you're definitely going to apologize for things you have nothing to do with, absolutely nothing to do with. But it makes more sense for you to fall on that sword and move forward. Because some people need to hear that. They do. They need that level of acknowledgement. And the other thing I tell people is give people space. Like, there have
Yeah.
definitely been times where I've miscommunicated something and I've sent the person a text, I know you don't want to talk to me right now. I'm going to give you space, but when you
Mhm.
are ready, I am ready to talk.
Mhm.
And I want to address this. And it may be a couple of hours, it may be a couple of days,
Yeah. Yeah.
but eventually we are going to have to address the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think having that willingness to come back to the table and converse about it goes a long way.
Talking about apologizing, we're really just demonstrating that we're human.
Yes.
Human
Exactly.
over title, really, could you think about that?
Exactly.
So it's not a weakness or anything. It's like, "Whoops, sorry about that. I get it. I see where I'm at." I usually with my case was I didn't tell the rest of the story or the previous story, so I just, "Whoops, so sorry about that." Or I'll think I had it. I'd shared something with them and I hadn't. And then you said this part at the end, it is so, so, so hard for me, and that's that give space.
Yeah.
I'm in a crisis here. I feel bad for hurting someone or breaking trust. I want to race to mend it, and not everybody wants me to mend it. Right?
Well, and there's 2 things to that, Jim. The time that it takes, that isn't for you to determine anyway. That's the
Mhm.
Well,
person that in this case is harmed, right?
right,
And that's
right.
so hard because I like to move. Like I have a schedule to keep, right? I got to get on to the next thing. So we need to get this wrapped up. You need to get over this, which, get over something has never actually helped anybody get over something. So that's just it. That's hard. The other part that I heard you as you're describing that piece there, and I think it's a real big distinction, you did not mention anything there about trying to justify why something happened, right? That's not the time for that. There might be, maybe at some point in time, but that's not in an apology because all that comes across to the person hearing that as excuses, right?
Mhm.
The minute we try to justify the why that happened, it happened. It is what it is. We need to try to move forward. There might be a great reason for that, but in the moment, it's not the right time.
Yeah. And I think, again, like you said, Adam, when you're thinking about we're on our own schedules, right? We want to move forward. And one of the hardest things for me is understanding that people have their own timelines. I mean, it took one of my colleagues several months to talk with me.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that it was a negative space, she just wasn't ready. And so when we finally sat down, I said, I'm really glad because I know you saw that text message and it's time to talk. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're ready. And we had a really good conversation. And she said, it takes me time to get past things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we jump back to that last segment about the building the trust and how you be intentional, I think when that basis is there and these little slip ups happen, it's a lot more tolerable or palatable, I should say, when it comes into it, which, kind of is a great way to kind of wrap up this section is demonstrating how everything you've said so far has been about you start here, building
Hmm.
the trust, and you're intentional with that. And you're the small steps to get there, so that when little hiccups happen or big hiccups, whichever they are, we're going to address them. But we're going to address them not necessarily on my timeline or my strategy. We're going to own it, demonstrate that we're humans first, and then we're going to give the space. And I think that I'm going to underscore that one as well in this space. So, well, we're gonna take a little break here, listen to some sponsors, and then we're gonna jump right back into our final segment where we're gonna just take a little bit more out of knowledge from Dr. Rachel before she heads on over to Chicago. So stay with us, everyone.
Strong schools don't just happen in classrooms, they happen in conversations. BrightPath Family Connect helps schools and families stay aligned with simple updates, reminders, and meaningful communication that actually gets seen. Because when families are informed, students are supported. BrightPath Family Connect. Better connection, better learning.
School leadership is demanding, and your time is finite. You don't need vague jargon. You need practical strategies that work. Join host Adam Bush every Wednesday morning for your morning boost on the Forward Ed Network. In just a few minutes, you'll get high-impact professional development, moving you from a reactive fixer to a capacity-building coach. Subscribe to your morning boost today.
All right, let's make this practical then. So, if I'm a principal and I'm listening now in July, and I know that trust needs to be stronger in my building when all the kids come back in the fall, where do I start? How do I start this process?
I have a couple of ideas. First of all, I think it's really important that you are present on the ground out in your building. That's number one. I think we tend to trust people more when we see them. If I'm stuck locked away in my office, people are going to make a lot of assumptions about me, my beliefs, and my thoughts if they do not see me showcasing my thoughts and beliefs and those things. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
number one. I think you have to have a physical presence in your building and people need to see you in action. That way you can show your values. Secondly, I think we need to make feedback more normalized for school leaders. Now, as school leaders, we get a lot of feedback,
mhm,
unsolicited often.
yep,
But how often are we giving our staff opportunities to share feedback with us? And I think that's a great way to build trust with people to say, hey, what's going well in our building? What needs to be improved? And how can I help you? I do that every year and I always have with my staff. And when I went to my new school, they said we've never had an opportunity to provide our principals and leadership team with feedback. And so I think providing feedback is another great one. And finally, I would say take a gratitude walk. I'm like very much into gratitude walks. Instead of doing walkthroughs where we're looking for things that are not right, a gratitude walk flips it and says, here's what I'm looking for, anything that is going well,
mhm,
and you're going to highlight that. You're going to take pictures of it. You're going to send it to your staff, send it out in your communities. Because I think it builds trust when people know that you're going to be highlighting the wonderful things that are going on, that you see us for more than the challenges. You see our school for more than what may not be working. Here's what is working, and it's working because of you and your
yeah,
presence here. So I
yeah.
think those are three things to consider. Start doing.
You're talking about like the visibility piece. And that's one of those where I think every leader knows I need to be visible. I need to be visible. I need to be visible. But the way you describe that is different than I've heard that in the past. I've heard be seen, but you're talking about being involved, being understood, being a part of. It's not just standing in the hallway where everybody can see me. It's truly being in the inner workings of your building or of your district.
Yes.
Showcasing your thoughts, showcasing your values, that is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Because really what we want people to see who we are. I mean, actually, let's go take that back. We want people educators to see what we're doing, and and when we don't tell our story, people make up stuff and tell a story, and we have to be the ones telling the story, what's actually happening in schools. And in the absence of our words or our actions, nobody knows, and so they make up their own narrative, and it becomes their truth, which is so sad for our current educators. We gotta be the ones shaking the world as they go by with that. I love the showcasing, and I just felt it had a zen moment when you said, "Go on a gratitude walk."
Mhm.
Gratitude walk, and what did that look like in your school? Just I wanna make sure it's crystal clear.
Oh my goodness. So when I need any morale pick me up, personally or
No
professionally,
kidding. No
I will
kidding.
just walk around the school, no agenda, and I'm listening for children laughing. I'm looking for amazing, like, teaching and discoveries that are happening in real time. I'm looking for parents eating lunch with their children, surprising them for the day and seeing their faces light up when they have, like, a McDonald's Happy Meal with their kids. I'm going outside. I'm l s smelling fresh air. I'm watching children play. All of those things happen in our schools every single day. But the
Yeah.
question is, are we taking the time to notice them? Or
Yeah.
are we only focusing on correcting what's wrong? And I think we need to shift our lens in this area because so many beautiful things happen in our schools every minute of the day. But if we're not noticing them, if we are
Yes.
not highlighting them, if we're not spotlighting them, it's as if they are not happening.
I hear educators talk all the time about celebrating, but typically what we will celebrate is like the 3rd grade reading scores are now
Yes.
higher, or all of those, right? Or the
Yeah.
varsity football team just won a big game, and all that stuff's awesome, don't get me wrong, that we should celebrate that stuff too, but those little moments that you're talking about right there, what lead up to all of those anyway, I just love that idea. I mean, sad, but I have notes for our show over here, but on the other side, I have the notes for the stuff Adam's gonna do to make sure that he gets done this coming fall, so this is awesome. This is really working well for me.
And it's accessible for all schools. All of us all have all no matter what school you're in, rural,
Yeah,
urban, suburban, no matter what, you have these moments. And again, the question is, are you taking the time to notice? Or are we buried in our emails? Are we buried in our notebooks? Are we looking up to see these things? Like, let's lift up our head and let's see, what's happening around our building. And it's amazing. All of our
love it.
buildings have amazing things happening in them every single day. And we need to talk about that more.
And how much does it cost?
Right, it's
Exactly.
free. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When we talk about leadership is it's, letting others see, and you're doing things by example and all of that as well. You can't tell me if you're doing this all the time that your staff doesn't take their moments to recognize those little things too, more so than what other staff members might do. I mean, it's easy to get caught up. The job's hard. The
Mhm,
job's really hard, especially you start pulling off a gratitude walk in the middle of, I know, the 3rd week of March or the 1st week of April when everybody's
mhm,
just trying to tread water anyway.
mhm.
That's really impressive. I really like that idea.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it, as someone who has struggled with, feeling, like, personally low at times, like you said,
Mhm.
December, um, all the concerts and all those things into January, that's a hard stretch for all the school leaders.
Yeah.
Even into May, there's a lot happening, but it also can feel overwhelming. Sometimes we need to take a step back and really look at what's happening in our schools, the beautiful things.
Well, that makes culture feel a lot less abstract, that's for
Mhm,
sure, and it's like Jim just said, it's free. This isn't adding another initiative. You're not going out to buy a new book that we all need to read. I mean, this is something very, very easy for us to be able to do. It's just looking at the way we lead a little differently. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, we're going to take one quick final break. And then when we come back, Jim and I will close out our conversation today by putting a little discussion into our control shift lead terms with a lot of the wonderful stuff that we've received from our guests today. So hold on, everybody. We'll be right back after this.
If you're an educator trying to stay sharp without adding more to your plate, SkillSpring is built for you. Short, practical professional learning designed around real classroom needs. Lesson strategies, instructional tools, and ideas you can actually use tomorrow. No overwhelm, no wasted time. Just learning that fits your day. SkillSpring. Learn forward.
For students wondering what comes next and how to get there, there's Next Step Scholar, a platform that helps learners explore careers, build direction, and take meaningful steps toward their future. Not overwhelming, just clearer paths forward. Next Step Scholar. Every future starts with a next step.
All right. Well, welcome back to our final piece here on Control Shift Lead with Dr. Rachel Edoho Eket. And Jim, I want to have you just kind of recap a little bit about what we've learned today. I mean, we always talk about something we can control, something that's going to shift your thinking, and something that's going to help you lead your school tomorrow. I don't even know how we have to take things and put them into those 3 buckets, because I think all of this stuff we've learned today can fit almost all 3.
Well, I think it's anything that you do when you talk to someone who can see how everything fits together,
Mhm.
it is actually very difficult to pull things apart. But I'm going to actually, the way that Dr. Rachel kind of described it was very simple. You start with the trust and you do the small little things that make a difference. So if you think of trust as a balance, it's the little actions that are going to tip it one way or the other. Culture is going to be there. The trust may or may not be, but it's like there's your groundwork, and it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen because you're the new kid in the block.
Mhm.
You have to be intentional with it. The second part where I really thought was kind of kind of hit home a little bit with the apologizing is great. That's easy for me to do because I err a lot, it seems like, but I own it a lot. And it's about owning it and sitting down and treating people as humans versus titles one way or the other. However, the part that really stung me a little bit was the part that's really hard for me to do, and it's give space because not everybody's willing and ready to remedy the situation at that moment. And because I want to handle it one way doesn't mean that everybody wants to handle it the same way. And it's really kind of like looking through the lens of others. So that was really what I'm going to have to sit with because it's so important. Then the coolest part is, so you have your trust, your scale balance, and those little things, and then you've got the treating people as humans first, titles second, and then she comes in with the be present, not just being there physically,
Mhm.
being mentally and emotionally present. And I love how you said showcase your trust, showcase your values, showcase. You didn't say model or anything like that. You just like showcase it. See the talents that you have. And sometimes as principals, we forget to do that. However, the exclamation point is definitely the gratitude walks. Just noticing the wonderful things that are going on in your school. And I takes it back to I would watch these elementary vocal concerts and I would see the sixth graders up there and I'd get a little teary eyed because I remember them when they were in kindergarten and they were walking
Mhm.
all the way through. And we have a beautiful, blessed job that we get to do that, see that when not parents don't necessarily get to see that, but we do, and shouldn't be something we take lightly. So the gratitude walks, preach on with that one.
I love it.
Did I miss anything in that?
I don't think so. I do think the showcase your thoughts and show your values. I mean, we talk about t-shirt quotes. That's one right there.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can ever just figure that little piece out, if people are really going to truly understand you, then, I think back to my father-in-law. He's been gone for quite a few years now, but I remember a quote that he gave me that always stuck with me. He said, "You know what? If you always just tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said." And I think that really showcases that for leadership too, is if you're just you, if you're just trying not to be this other thing that's out there and like, no, we're gonna roll up our sleeves, we're gonna work together because we know at the end we're always gonna do what's right for kids. And I just think that means a lot. That's your values. That's your piece. So this has been awesome. This has been a really, really good episode today. I appreciate your time today. Can you please give our listeners some ideas of how they can get in touch with you or how they can hear more of your work? Like I said at the beginning, I follow you on social media. Your stuff is awesome. That's
Thank
an
you.
easy follow. That's really, really good stuff. But if somebody wants to get in touch with you or wants to track some of your work, how do they get a hold of
Well, first of all, thank you, Jim and Adam, for having me. I love this conversation.
you?
It was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun to reflect and really think about how we can continue to improve our practice as leaders and educators. But I would love to stay connected with all of the listeners and thank you again for your time and listening to the session today. I'm best reached at racheledohoeket.com. That's just my full name, no hyphen there. It's easy. It has all of my socials, my leadership videos, my books, free articles, all sorts of things are there. So I think that's kind of like a hub. But I also can be reached on social media at Rachel Edoho Eket kind of across all of my platforms. So I'm really looking forward to staying connected with everyone this summer and into the fall as we start a new school year.
So when does school start back up for you? When do the little kindergartners start rolling back into your building?
Okay, so they are coming back August 20, I think it's 24th.
Okay.
However, we have our staff that's coming back August 11th, which means we are coming back on the 8th or 9th
Yep.
as leaders. So our summer is actually quite short this year, the way the
Yeah.
calendar fell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. That's about the same
Mhm.
for us too. It'll be here before I
Yes.
know it.
When is the carnival? No, not the carnival, the state fair. When is your state fair?
Yeah, you know Iowa,
I
don't you?
Remember,
remember.
you remember.
I do. Iowa, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we usually wrap up, so that's kind of funny. Iowa's school start date is based on the state fair. We are not allowed to start until after the state fair is completed. So, yes, we will start up. It's probably what is it, Jim? August 11th, 12th, probably right in that general area.
Teachers, and I think that the schools will probably start right around the 23rd, 2nd,
Yeah,
something
20.
like
I
that.
think it's 25th, maybe
So
23rd
we'll
might
be
be a
around the same
weekend.
time.
Yep,
Yes.
yep, yep. Oh,
That is
that's
an
cool.
amazing question. You had a great memory because that
That's
I
darn
comes
right.
remember.
every August.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember hearing about the butter cows and some of the other cool
You are not
things.
wrong. You are
I've
not
heard.
wrong. Yep. Oh, well, this is awesome. Dr. Edoho Eket, thanks for joining us here today. I really, like I said, I really enjoy your work, and I think your message today has been very well received, or is going to be very well received by our audience. So thank you for sharing your time, and enjoy the rest of your summer, because I know you've earned it. I remember listening to you talk about the power of saying no, and I've
Yes.
learned to
Oh,
do a little bit of that. Thank you to
I
you. So
love
I
it.
appreciate that. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Jim, I know you two actually are going to, but when we're recording this, it'll actually be between record date and airing date here. But I know that you two are both in Chicago. What else do you guys have going on as far as the leadership tour this summer?
I get the opportunity to work with 2 schools in Hawaii here at the end of July,
Darn.
so jump back on
Nice.
that one.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just making my gigs around, that's probably the hottest one. I mean, you could call it Northwest Pennsylvania, maybe, West Virginia, there a lot, just but, yeah, Western Nebraska next week, but I'm looking forward to this concert here with the Culturized Institute here,
Hmm.
Chicago. I
Hmm.
can't wait to meet Rachel in person here, so
Excited.
I know, so
That's awesome. That's
Jim, I'd
awesome.
also like to hop on to the consultation in Hawaii when you have a moment. Otherwise, I will be in Chicago. I'm so excited. I've never been to Chicago before, the Windy
Yeah.
City. So I'll be flying out tomorrow, and I'm thrilled to be providing the closing keynote. I'm so thankful to be connected with Jimmy Casas and his entire team. Just truly a dream come true. Then I will be speaking at the Building Expertise. I'll be doing their keynote. That'll be this week on Friday in Orlando, and then going right into ISTE ASCD as a featured
Yep.
speaker there. Super
Yep.
excited about that. And then the National School Leaders Conference through NAESP. I'll be one of the keynote speakers there and doing some breakout sessions.
Busy, 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 and you
Yes, I
should
can't
be.
wait.
Yeah, no, that's good. If they could multiply you and send you multiple directions, I know people would still sign up for that. So that is awesome. That is awesome. Well, Jim, any last words before we head out for or for this month?
no, I really think I'm gonna lean back into this the word gratitude really stuck with me more than anything else. Public education and public educators are just like a unique human being, and sometimes we get the bad rap for a lot of things because of whatever reason, but there's a lot to be thankful for, and I love the
Absolutely.
idea of just being thankful with gratitude with our employees, the people we work with, our colleagues, the students, the parents, because it's those little things that
Yep.
Rachel was talking about that
Yep.
really make the big difference, and I'm so thankful to be a part of this podcast, but also, to have some guests just like, Dr. Edic I'm not Dr. Rachel. I was practicing that so hard. I'm
It's
not gonna
okay.
oh my god, I'm gonna have it down by tomorrow, I promise you that.
All
I'm gonna
good. All
I
good.
love it. I
We'll
anyway,
love it.
practice it
so
tomorrow.
I will
Sounds
get it.
good.
Thank you. Alright.
Well, big thank you to all of you listeners out there. As Jim was saying, it's a hard job. Thank you for being one of the few
Mhm.
that can actually do that. So we'll be back again with you again next month on Control Shift Lead. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Control Shift Lead, brought to you by Inspired Edification and AWB Education. We're glad you joined us for today's discussion on empowering school leadership. To dive deeper and explore more of Jim and Adam's work, find us at www.awbeducation.org. Thanks for listening. We look forward to connecting with you again soon.